Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists podcast, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. As always, I'm Will, that's Blake, and today we're here to talk a little D&D, our bread and butter, but a little Dimension 20 flavored this time around, as we dive into the Ravening War, episode 3.
Oh, hello.
Hey.
Sorry, I just tried to scoot right in there.
No, you were welcome to.
I felt like you were like on stage and I just like stepped in front like, and, you know.
I thought we were about to like harmonize.
Yeah. Very Turk and JD moment.
Yeah.
You go ahead though. Continue.
Yeah, no, I was pretty much done. Episode 3 of the Ravening War actually has a really funny title.
Yonder where the fruit do be lying. It's a very serious episode though.
Yeah, it actually was. And we're officially halfway through, which again I'm sad for, which I went into this thinking it was going to be like 20 episodes, so
I know.
But so far so good, so I'll take what I can get as far as having 3 more to go.
Yeah, if you're new to our channel, this is our nerd channel, so we talk a lot of D&D, and we've enjoyed the Ravening War. Also, we also cover Critical Role and Worlds Beyond Number, which are 2 other D&D campaigns, I guess. That's on the channel, and then we do talk other stuff too.
We do.
For people who like other stuff too.
Wait, what is that from?
Zoolander.
Yeah.
For kids who can't read good and want to do other stuff too, or whatever.
Yes.
So,
how
are you saying, my friend? Oh, sorry.
No.
You can also know we're not very organized. We kind of just shoot from the hip, and you would think after. I think are we at the 2-year mark this summer? By the way.
I don't know. We started. The first thing we did was Loki. Which season 2 is about to come out. Or not about to, but
season 1 was June 9th, 2021.
Whoa.
So we are about at the 2-year mark.
Bro.
And you would think that our channel would be more, but it's not. But this is us.
Yeah.
You're getting the mess with us, which we're proud of.
Yeah.
So
we're authentic.
Season 2's coming out soon, huh?
Yeah, I'm really excited for it.
Wow. I think to this day, I've never had like a mini series experience like I did in terms of like Marvel, like I did with WandaVision and Loki. I will say Secret Invasion. See, now I'm
one of the 2.
Yeah, hang on.
It's
Nick
one
Fury,
of the 2.
Secret Invasion. There we go.
Yeah.
The comics are called the Secret Wars.
There's 2.
Okay. Well, regardless, I will say that does look pretty good, and I'm very intrigued by it.
I think it looks good, but I'm not getting my hopes up for like something Loki WandaVision level.
Why?
Bro, we need to have like a Marvel discussion. I realized like I was really, really excited for Guardians 3, and I still haven't seen it. And that's like so weird for me. Like I usually go opening night for those movies, and I thought back on it, and I think it's like, because man, Ant-Man was a disappointment. Like,
never saw that. I know you love Thor.
Was a disappointment. Wakanda Forever was good. So that was.
It was good.
Like the one good one recently.
It was good, but it wasn't. It like I don't know which phase it was, but there was a series of films where it was like boom, one after another.
Yeah.
Like riding high on Marvel. Not WandaVision. Wakanda Forever was good, but it was good in a sea of
mediocrity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
and
there's a lot to say there. We do need to have a video.
Yeah. I don't want. I'm getting distracted now, but there's a lot of thoughts there. But anyway, Loki though, I agree with you. That was such a fun experience, and I'm really excited for season 2. I hope they can, hit that same high bar. But we're not here to talk about this today. We're talking about D&D stuff. But one other quick announcement. Going on right now, we're recording this on Wednesday. So from today running through Saturday night, there is an event going on called Games Done Quick that Blake and I love. We've made videos about it on the channel. So if you're interested, I won't, get into the long and the short of it here, but you can check those out. But essentially, it's a speedrunning marathon for charity, so it's a great cause. And if you like speedrunning, definitely check it out. You can find that on Games Done Quick on Twitch.
Yeah, I think they have a YouTube also.
Yeah. They do.
Whatever.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, okay. So whatever you want to watch, you can watch it. So
exactly. And I think that's all we got.
Are we gonna do Candela Obscura, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should. I think we got a little bit more time.
Yeah,
I think it's I did. I think it's a once a month thing, so we have time to like cover that before episode 2 comes out.
I guess let us know in the comments too if you watched it, if you want to chat about it with us. I guess since we do have so much lead time, there's no reason not to. Especially with Ravening War is going to be over in a few weeks.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to the Ravening War.
The Ravening War. So yeah.
Anyway.
If you're new to us, we always like to recap these long form contents before we dive into actually discussing them. So we're going to jump into that now. And we actually cut that recap out, host it separately. So if you're on the recap video right now and you want to see our full discussion, there will be a link to that video down in the description below. So without further ado, episode 3 of the Ravening War, Yonder, Where the Fruit Do Be Lying. We pick up with the crew at this bridge where they're plotting their ambush of this oncoming caravan. And
at dawn we plan.
At dawn we plan. And that is exactly what happens here. There's a bunch of discussion on what they should do, how they should do it, taking in their surroundings, what can they use in the environment. And they ultimately decide that they are going to try to block the carriage on the bridge. And to do this, they're going to cut down a tree and basically have it fall over, blocking one path of the bridge, and then roll down a nearby orange boulder to block the retreat path. So they'll be, caged in, essentially. So as they're setting up the logistics of all of this, they decide that one of them should go scout ahead and see if they can see the carriage coming, just to get some more information, and then, relay that back to everyone so they can plan accordingly. Colin decides to be the one to do this, and they're coming up with a signal. He's like, so when I'm coming back, should I just yell at you guys, how many there are? And they're like, Karna and Amango are like, maybe it's time we reveal to them that we can communicate telepathically, as that would be a much better way of signaling each other. So there's actually this really funny moment where Karna reveals this by telepathically communicating to Delhi. And so he freaks out as soon as he hears somebody in his head, and everyone draws their sword, and it's just a really funny moment. So with the plan now decided, Colin rides out to scout ahead, gets a little stakeout spot, and does eventually see this watermelon carriage that is being pulled by a bunch of cherries start coming along. He can see that there's 2 drivers per se, 2 little outside guards in the front of the carriage, but that's all he can see, as he cannot make out what's inside the carriage. And Matt gives him the choice of, do you want to stay and wait till it gets closer, maybe you'll see more, or do you not want to risk getting seen, and do you want to go ahead and head back? And he says he decides to head back. So he comes back, tells everybody what he saw, and everyone basically gets in position. One last final preparation that Karna makes is she casts silence on the bridge so that no sound will be able to happen there, so that they won't be able to yell for help or hear any screams or anything. So the watermelon's approaching. Lady Amango does use her magic ring to see inside of it, and she can make out that there's 5 figures, 4 of which are armored, and 1 is robed and cloaked, so she can't see who it is. So it rolls over the bridge, the trap is sprung, they knock the tree over, blocking the front, and here in a couple of rounds, the orange boulder will come back and block the back path, but essentially combat begins, and, as always, just going to hit the highlights of this encounter, which was the lion's share of the episode, honestly.
Right.
But the bishop's casting spells, but he's using his subtle spell so that no one can see him casting spells. And he casts, very interesting. He casts Shatter on the boulder I referred to earlier, which is what causes it to roll down and block the path. Right. Colin is attacking, and we learn that he has a long sword of wounding, which does extra necrotic damage that cannot be healed except by a short or long rest. Thought that was really interesting. And as this combat's going off, the two guards that were out front are fighting, obviously, but inside the carriage, they've just like walled themselves in and they're shooting crossbows out. Um, because of this, Deli just goes and breaks into the carriage. And as soon as he's in there, he's surrounded by five people. But he just rushes in and attacks the cloaked figure, which is revealed to be Queen Pamela Rocks. And he just rushes in and
Oh,
lets loose. Um,
bloodthirsty man.
yeah, and she asks like Delisandre why, and he just says destiny has been designed. Um, the guards that were in there then just all unleash on him with bonus damage because of this ability that Matt tells us about called For the Queen, which is basically
Mhm.
like they get a buff if the queen is taking damage, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Um, while this is all happening, a boat starts coming down the river with just a banana guy who's just
Yeah.
minding his own business
Poor
rowing
guy.
down the river, and they're like no witnesses, so Colin kind of reluctantly goes down there and murders this guy. Rest in peace, Banana Man.
Yeah.
um,
Banana split.
um, wait, I'll save it for later. So we pick back up with in the carriage. Deli is basically getting torn up by all these guards. Um, Darren Quiche comes in to assist him, and the bishop runs up also to assist and casts another shatter spell, this time inside the carriage. And again, at this point, the bishop doesn't know who's in there. Only Deli knows. So he casts this shatter spell and actually gets the "How do you want to do this?" on the queen. And Brennan describes this really interesting segment of having had these dark visions his whole life. He's got these dark gifts within him, but he's never wondered where they came from. He doesn't care why things are the way they are. He cares in how he can make them. And so he
Mhm.
says, "Butcher them, do what you will, come to my aid." And the shatter spell goes off, kills the queen, and it's only then that he has the realization of who he just killed, and he kind of like falls to his knees and says, "This the queen who like mocked me, who I hated, I just killed, but like I it's like my biggest regret." He says it's a moment of horror because he's been played and everything he's
Mm.
been working for is like spilling away from him. He says he's a fool and a pawn. So after this, the crew finishes off the remaining guards. The final of which is this really cool gummy bear night.
Yeah.
And being the last one, realizing the queen is dead and the fight's over, he basically slams his spear into the ground and kneels and just says, like, finish it. Karna obliges him, and with the water still dagger, ends his life. And that's where combat ends. If you would like to
Yeah.
take it from there, my friend.
Yeah. And such a cool moment of the water still dagger being used, by the way. So yeah, this sort of last remaining half hour of the episode, there's a couple of people, Amongo and Rafanuel are immediately very much curious if Quiche knew that this was Queen Pamela Rocks, to whereas Quiche basically says, yeah, no, I had no idea. In fact, Amon Go is going to do detect thoughts and also dig deeper to really figure out, is he telling the truth? And seems to be telling the truth. Quiche is ultimately thinking about like their escape plan, kind of evaluating the battle, but seems to not be sort of like sinister in a sinister way, like withholding any kind of information about this event. It's also around this time that Amongo hears galloping like over a hillside nearby and immediately informs everyone like, we have to go. We got to get out of here. So the party darts out. There's a group stealth check, and Matt lets them know they're successful as they hear in the distance this troop of characters arriving at the battle site, a horn blowing, basically calling for help, and they seem to have made their escape. And as they are in their escape, Quiche is like, great job, guys. You killed it. And Rafanuel's super pissed off about this whole thing. Building on what Will mentioned of him feeling immediately regretful of what happened, is essentially like this is so much more messy than we thought it was going to be, and actually confides in Deli to say basically like, hey, I think this is more than just petty blackmail. Like this feels like something. I feel like we're being played in a much bigger way than we realize. It's also around this time that they hear something darting in the brush. There's a fire of a crossbow bolt, I think from Amango, that misses. And then I think it's an eldritch blast from Karna that ends up hitting this character, that as they descend on this character, they find this strange sapling-esque type character with a broken mask that's peeled off its face to reveal these amber eyes and a mouthless face. Very much vibes of like some kind of like mushroomy fungus type character.
Yeah.
And there is detect thoughts cast on this character, and rather than there being like vocal thoughts, instead there's images, and this is very clearly like a scared creature of some kind. And I don't know if it's Karna who says it, but someone turns to Deli and is like, kill him. And without hesitating, Deli is just like, you got it. And does his multi-attack double natural 20s on both attacks, and just crushes this creature. And there's this cool moment where Matt describes these spores that sort of release from it. And as they hit Deli, all he hears in his mind is the phrase, why? And with this done, they also note that this creature was heading to this cavern off on the side of this crevasse. They go into this cavern, just exploring, seeing like, where was this thing going? And they find like these tendrils, these glowing tendrils that are sort of going through the cave. Deli's going to touch the tendrils, and he immediately gets this image of this beating source of energy that he knows in his heart. He hears almost, it's not like I don't know if it was like a vocal message or just like a communicating, like, this is what you understand.
Yeah.
But it's basically like, this is the heart of the world. And he hears welcome, like this sort of comforting welcomeness. He shares this with Rafanuel, who's casting Detect Thoughts on him. And then Rafanuel is actually going to cast Detect Thoughts, not as a subtle spell, so people see this happen, and puts his hands on the venous structure and sees the similar beating heart, and hears a voice that is basically like much more apprehensive, and is sort of like, tell no one, like, don't tell anyone of what you've seen. Though Rafanuel asks something like, can the blades get me here? Or like, are the blades after me? Or some kind of phrasing like that, to which the source is uncertain. It's not really sure what is being asked. Quiche is kind of like, hey, we should probably get going. He's actually carrying the body of this sapling creature in his cloak, basically over his shoulder. And the party basically heads back to the food pyramid, where they see the FDA again, and the FDA is like, hey, great job, you guys did it. And the party's pretty rightfully pissed off. Specifically, Amango is like, why did this have to happen? Like, why would you have us basically attack this kingdom that wasn't even involved in the Ravening War? You promised answers. We want answers. And the FDA basically says, they admit that they are part of this sect called the Sanctus Putris. And I apologize for you guys who have seen Crown of Candy. I don't mean to butcher this, but this was just kind of my armchair in the moment understanding. But essentially, this sect that believes in, it was very Thanos-esque, but it was very much the hungry one, this hungry beast. In order to be satiated and kept from devouring the world, there must be rot and bloodshed in the short term. And so what the FDA has done has involved a new kingdom into the conflict to create violence in the short term, again, to satiate the hungry one in the long term. And the party's kind of mixed on this. Haman goes basically like, I didn't sign up for this. And one of the FDA steps forward and reveals her mask to reveal herself as Archbishop Camille Cauliflower, back from episode 1, who basically says, well done, take some rest. Like, we'll call on you again when we need you. The FDA takes their departure with Quiche, who also they overhear him mentioning to the FDA, hey, I saw something pretty interesting. but we don't know where that's going to go. And then Matt, similar to episode 1, gives another. I don't know if we're actually going to have a time jump, but seemingly,
Yeah, we are.
Okay, he gives sort of this outro of another time jump of years passing, deep bloodshed, cruelty, and the death of innocence. And it seems that we will be returning in episode 4 again in the future to see where this group has ended up. And that was episode 3 of the Ravening War, Yonder Where the Fruit Do Be Lying.
Good job, man. So yeah, and again, if you are on the recap, a link to our full discussion will be in the description below.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Man,
What'd
love
you
this kind
think?
of stuff, man. Like the big meta's not the right word, actually, but like, I guess macro of like the large scale political intrigue and like sort of like the big things that are happening under the surface, like that kind of stuff. I just really adore. And we got some really cool, I don't know, it's very much are we the baddies energy of like, we're trying to save the world, and then like, okay, wait, maybe this wasn't super good, but very interesting episode. I do wish I've seen A Crown of Candy, because if I know, looking at the wiki, there's a lot of content around the Sanctus Putris, the festered tome, I think is what it's called, from A Crown of Candy. But
Interesting.
all that to say, what did you think?
Yeah, I loved it too, man. I thought I don't really, my brain's getting ahead of my words here. I don't know if I have like I don't have anything specific to point to necessarily, which makes this comment maybe not worth making. But I thought Matt really shined in this episode of kind of really show like I don't know. I just thought it was amazing. All that like deep lore and kind of like you said, the like bigger like kind of, I don't know if mystery is the right word, but like the bigger implications of like the grand scale of things kind of unfolding. And we've got this new fungus entity, and like I just thought all that was cool. And then obviously the whole assassination plot, which I think probably, you know, is a little more impactful if you've seen A Crown of Candy, which, you know, we haven't. But I do know that Queen Pamela Rox was obviously not in A Crown of Candy. She was just mentioned. But I do, all the players I think were Candy in that first campaign.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
So this was like a big.
There was a cool how do you want to do this moment for Brennan, where he was like, this is so weird because I mentioned that Pamela Rox had been killed in the Ravening War, and now I am the one, this designer of the story, who now gets to dictate how she died.
That was so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. Yeah, that's kind of like, I guess, you know, Matt obviously did not create the lore of this world. So when I made my comment earlier, that's not what I was implying, but just the way he has like curated this story, I guess, to like enable that moment from Brennan. I think that was just all so cool to me. And I just randomly saw a YouTube short. I don't know what the interview was from, but it was a clip of Brennan being interviewed. And he said, you know, after doing this, it was so much fun. Like, I really want to do this for Matt, meaning like he wants to come back over to Critical Role, but have Matt be a player at his table so that he can give Matt the same experience that Matt's giving him.
All right, let me go ahead and speak for Critical Role. Yes, Brennan, from the random YouTuber. Yes. And we already know he can do it well. He did it for Calamity. You know, just didn't have Matt as a player.
Right.
That's a high praise coming from Brennan. The subtext I read from that is he really, I think, appreciated being in the player spot and felt it's probably a lot to give the reins over to something you've created, and then to be not just watching it like Matt did with Calamity, but to be in that world. Yeah, I can only imagine Brennan was really satisfied with what Matt did. A little bit of a bromance there. I'm all about it.
Yeah, I'm excited for that bromance. They just do everything together, please.
There's some awesome all ships rise, the tide rises all boats. I don't know, man. We're so bad.
Tide rises all boats, baby.
We're so bad at these expressions. I love that energy though between Critical Role and Dimension 20. Like it's so good for this kind of content and like D&D in general. And I just think it's really admirable that that's kind of the tone, the collaboration they've set early on, it seems. I say early on, they've both been around for a while, but I'm here for it. I love seeing the crossover cast, and I just think it's really good. And I think it says a lot about, not to be like overly effusive, but I just think it says a lot about the character of those businesses, that it's like, yeah, we're going to collaborate rather than, be competitive.
100% agreed. Yeah, I mean, it just speaks to the character of everyone involved too,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm with you there. And a rising tide lifts all boats, I
Yeah.
think
There you go.
is the official phrase, but I like ours better.
Tide brings all the boats up.
All of them up.
It's very Charlie Day-esque.
Yeah.
So,
but yeah, loved the episode. Yeah, a lot to talk about, which again, I know anyone watching this, you've heard us say it, but just to give another disclaimer at the start, we haven't seen A Crown of Candy, so I know that like some stuff we're I'm imagining myself as a viewer who like would potentially be watching us that has seen A Crown of Candy, and I know I would be frustrated if two morons were just like speculating on all this stuff, and it's like, no, we know that that's not it because it's this.
Yeah.
So just forgive us if that happens.
No, and I appreciate you guys being so gracious in the comments, because there have been requests like, will you guys watch it? We will watch it. It's a matter of when right now, because our time, this may surprise you. This is just a hobby for us. We just do it because we love it. And so we're doing Worlds Beyond, we're doing Ravening War, we're doing Critical Role. That is a lot of content on a week-to-week basis, and so we just don't. It's a capacity issue right now. We just don't have the space to watch it currently, but we want to, and we will. But thank you for being gracious, guys. Because I think you're right. I think it probably is frustrating to like. I can just imagine.
I would be
frustrated.
Like
a 20-minute like discussion. Like, what could this mean? And someone's like. So anyway.
So yeah, bear with us and feel free to let us know in the comments. Like, we want to know, but as always, just please give a spoiler warning if it's, a spoiler related.
I hate to say it. If you mark it as a spoiler, I'm personally not going to read it just because I want to protect that experience of A Crown of Candy. But definitely tag it for other people to engage with as well. Okay.
All right.
This episode.
Yeah.
Great energy at the table. There's just something about a table, man, where like there were some cool moments where Colin or just Zac Oyama in general I think there was a moment where he looked at Deli and was like because Thane Deli was pretty bloodthirsty in this episode, where Colin was kind of like, what are you doing, man? Like, it's just, there's some good energy and like some good like back and forth in this episode, but I'm rambling. Where do you want to start?
Where to start? I guess with the assassination and all that stuff first. But just on Zac Oyama really quick. Dude is like, I'm trying to think of the best word here. Like, so
I hate to say it, maybe my favorite character.
He's so good. He's like he's so witty, but like not in like the way you would first assume of like wisecracking jokes all the time, but he like finds his moments and hammers them so perfectly.
Someone, I don't know his background, but we said something similar about Robbie Daymond, and someone talked in the comments, and this was years ago, by the way, guys, so I apologize that I can't accredit you well, but or whenever Exandria season 1 was, but someone said like, oh, well, Robbie has like an acting, like a stage background, and you have to learn how to like give spotlight and take it, or not take it away, but like step out of it. I don't know Zach's background, but that was the metaphor I was getting at. Was it is similar to Robbie Daymond in terms of like, just like you said, finding that moment, and it just hits it so well.
Yeah, because his character is not like he's very much so the most like, what's the right word? The most like reserved of the group, and like kind of just is there to do his job. I'm just here so I don't get fined, and just kind of, I don't know. So like because of that, we have like these other very large personalities. That he kind of gets, he's not like always in the spotlight, as it were, but so he finds like there's just those great moments. He's like a sniper. So I just
Yeah.
as this being my first experience with Zac Oyama, I've just really loved him.
Yeah. I've also seen him a lot on the Game Changer show.
Oh yeah.
And so I just, man, he's super funny. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, high
I'm
praise
curious.
for him.
I'm curious to know how much of Colin is Zac versus just a
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Okay.
so this assassination, I
Yeah.
this isn't so I watched the after show, which is called the Adventuring Party. It's like a 15-minute where they just talk at the table type of stuff. So I picked up some stuff contextually from A Crown of Candy that I wouldn't have otherwise known. But again, I mentioned this in the recap. Queen Pamela Rock's Candia, that the characters in the first Crown of Candy were Candian, I think. Maybe there was like another race, but like it was primarily that was like what was going on.
Yeah.
And they
Right.
compared it to the Starks from Game of Thrones. So like that's what the first
Oh,
one was, is they were like the Starks of this world, kind of.
really? Okay.
So again,
Interesting.
y'all correct me if I'm wrong here. But
Mm.
what I thought was interesting is that in A Crown of Candy, Lou's character, Queen Pamela Rocks, was his mom. So the fact that now
Ah,
in this one he's the one brutally murdering her was,
yeah.
you know, crazy. So I just thought that was some interesting added context. But yeah, so Candia had been out of the war thus far. But we're on some sort of secret diplomatic mission. Not to say anything was underhanded going on there, but
I
what?
don't
Go ahead.
I don't know if that was the honest truth that she was on. Well, I mean, she was. Why am I saying she wasn't? She obviously was, right? But I guess what I meant to say was I don't think the FDA's presenting of the situation is accurate in that this is like a threat of some kind. Like we know she was heading to where um Tomate was supposedly pretending to hide out, but maybe she was looking to end the war in some way.
Wait, where was she heading? We know that?
She was heading to where was Tomate hiding? Or not actually hiding, but where he was said to be hiding.
I don't remember now.
So that town is where the FDA said the carriage was bound for.
Okay.
So my impression as the sixth neutral kingdom is that maybe Pamela Rocks was looking to end the war in some way, like wanting to meet with Tomate. The thing that doesn't add up is she would know that he wasn't in that town if she was legitimately they were supposed to meet, but
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I'm just curious, and I don't think it like probably matters too much in the grand scale of things, but I'm just curious what she was going to do
right,
if
yeah,
they were.
yeah,
But presumably, if they were removed from the war, it probably only stands to reason that it was something to keep the peace rather than like you know overthrow somebody. But I don't know.
it would have to be something like that because ultimately, if the FDA, if their long goal is strife in the short term to prevent oblivion in the long term, then her being a direct threat, as they called it or described her, they want the war to continue.
Right.
They want the war to continue, and more importantly, they want Candaria involved. So I can only assume it was she had some methodology or some plan to end the war.
Yeah. Or at the very least, that her assassination would definitely kick things back off. You know,
Right.
even
Right.
if she wasn't like a linchpin in the
Yeah.
peace plan necessarily.
Yeah. 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 Maybe indifferent to what she was doing. I mean, she could have been, visiting her favorite baker in,
Yeah.
whatever town. But they were like, here's a chance to involve Candaria. Yeah. I think that's a great point.
Um. But yeah. So, I definitely. I wonder why. So again, this is like maybe greater lore details that maybe other people could answer. Um. But I wonder why they were abstaining. You know,
Yeah.
like, did they just not care? Like, it's not on our territory. Like, because it seemed like everyone else is fighting, right? They're the only ones that aren't. Um, but I don't know. Maybe it's not really too important to
Well,
speculate on.
it could be that there just wasn't a moment that drew them in, because Matt in his first outro for the first episode, it was like this led to that, which involved this kingdom, which
Right.
they then, like I don't remember the connection with like the Meatlands, but we know that the Meatlands get offered part of the Dairy Islands is annexed and gifted to them. So like
Mm,
it could be that Kandera, just through coincidence, there was never something that pulled them in to the
yeah.
conflict, I guess.
And then this is another like random contextual thing I picked up on in the after show. So I don't know what I'm talking about. I might have even misunderstood. But there was some comment about referring to all of this about like assassinating her, is that one, you pull in the only kingdom that wasn't involved, but you also pull in like the magical kingdom. So I
Hmm.
again maybe misheard, maybe misunderstood, but that made me like wonder. I was like, wait, so are Candians like
Hmm.
have magic that the other ones don't? Um, so curious in the comments. It's not really something we can speculate on since I don't even know what I'm talking about. But if there's
Right.
any spoiler-free contextualization there, I'd love to know.
It could be that maybe they're the ones only openly users of magic, because we know this central theme is this continual like hiding around magic. I mean, before Karna and Amango became clean, I think Amango described it, as like a divine gift from the bulb above, and then
Mm-hmm.
Nathaniel obviously always hiding. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of what else I want to hit on in this actual like assassination and conflict before we move on. The banana guy, rest in peace. I noticed he was wearing
Man.
pajamas, so like bananas in pajamas.
Yeah. I think I'll park for a second on just how bloodthirsty Delisandro is.
Yeah.
I mean, just I don't know. He's played his character very well, in the sense of, at the first interaction with the FDA, you have Colin being like, "Is this a good idea?" And Thane Deli is like, "This is awesome. Like, this is great." We know, in order to like want to win the affection of Karna, he's taken on this sort of mantle of being a warmonger. Um, Talking about like the strength of the Meatlands, uniting, his phrasing, calling himself a warmonger. So like, I wonder if it just seems like he's playing true to his character. Like, yeah, I'm on the mission. I'm gonna, you know, sorry, Pamela,
Yeah.
but also, I was gonna say, also with the fungi, same thing, just like, you know, dead. I was just surprised as to how.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, like you said, he's made it clear from the jump that like he's in it for the glory. Like, oh, like these are kingmakers, you know, like he's gonna do what it takes to and he doesn't really care about the consequences, it seems like.
Yeah.
But yeah, really cool character, and I think he's played it very true to that. And I just wonder what his like ultimate what his ultimate like driving force is. Is it just, you know, to rise in power and glory in this Game of Thrones esque world, or is there something like
Yeah.
to do with, you know, how his mother was killed, or, you know, is there anything more than just like
Yeah.
the grand ambition of it all? Because
Yeah.
we do know the whole tie with his aunt, that the to me at least, let me know what you think, the reveal at the end when he smelled that was the implication that she is a member of the FDA.
Yeah. I tried to Google that, but I couldn't find it. I wondered if that was her smell, but I wasn't sure.
I think it has to be. Like, what else would that even mean? Other
Yeah.
Unless it was like a misdirect. Um, but to me the implication is that she was one of the FDA, meaning that his blackmail was also just straight up her, like
Yeah.
using that against him. And we know that she also was like, you know, kind of in his ear at the feast, being like, you should unite the Meatlands. So like, I'm guessing that from her end, it's all been manipulative, and there
Yeah.
I doubt there's like a real romantic connection there.
Yeah.
I'm curious, speaking to like what his motivations are and stuff. I wonder if any of it, I'm sure, he comes from the Meatlands. They're like warriors and stuff. I'm sure there is just a general level of like, I want to be a conqueror. But I wonder, since she was kind of whispering that to him, if any of this is like, I'm doing this so that like I can get with her, like make her proud. And so if he finds out that he's just been manipulated this whole time, if there's going to be like if that's going to
Yeah.
be like a big moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm interested. It doesn't seem like we're gonna get like an immediate reaction to all this since we're getting a time jump. Which do you know how long the time jump is?
I think Matt said it was like 4 or 5 years maybe, and we're gonna be picking up toward the end of the Ravening War.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Um,
Isn't the Ravening War? Actually, I don't know how long the Ravening War was. I guess it was like 10 years then.
let me see.
Because wasn't the first time jump like about
It was like 2
3 or 4
years,
years? Okay.
I think.
Okay.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't know how long the Ravening War was either, but yeah, he said 4 or 5 year jump, and we'll be toward the end of the war. Which we talked about this in, I guess, episode 2 after the first time jump, just how that's like a cool narrative tool, especially in a D&D game where you can kind of like make more backstory like while playing, as it were. So I'm really interested to see where we pick up with all of these people, which I want to talk about this, but before we leave the combat, trying to think if there's anything else. I thought it was really interesting how Karna described her attacks as like digestive and stuff, like really playing into that theme.
Rafanuel, his how do you want to do the shatter spell?
Yeah.
What?
So yeah, okay, yeah, let's talk about that. There's a lot to talk about there. One, we learned that he doesn't know what this stuff is. Like, he doesn't know where these visions are. He doesn't know why he has these gifts. He's just had them, which I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And 2, we find out that this is the last thing he wanted, which was so, I guess it's not like crazy, but like it's very interesting because it makes me wonder, okay, what did you want? If you kill the queen, now war is breaking out. So I'm guessing he didn't want the war to continue. And I'm curious, like, who was he trying to position on the throne? Or maybe he wasn't, but like it seems like he was definitely pulling strings. So like, what were his grand plans that now have crumbled because of this?
Yeah, and his phrasing around like realizing he was a fool or something like that. I didn't have enough context to really like. I was actually almost like, did I miss something? Not like in a negative way towards Brennan, but I was just like, I'm not fully like adding up what's happening in this moment, and I don't know if it's intentional. Like, there's more yet to be revealed, and Brennan's kind of like giving us a first clue in, or if I just missed it.
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything. I think it was just, he obviously has all these machinations and plots, and he's been played and fooled, and he's now kind of like undone it by his own hand. Maybe Crown of Candy people have a little bit more context, but that was my assumption. So I don't think we were supposed to know concretely.
Yeah. But yeah, something happening there. And is it implied that he's calling on the Hungry One to like do the final attack?
My thought was that he was calling on whatever this dark entity is that he has these visions of. And I feel like it's not the Hungry One. Maybe it is, but I feel like it's not, because he seems to have an understanding of the Hungry One. And so I feel like he would like just know and like have more confidence in what his powers were and what these visions were if he knew that's what it was. So to me, this is like a patron-esque entity. And the blades were mentioned again, and I think it was in the after show he like specifically said blender. So I think he has like a blender patron or something. That's my best guess, at least.
Yeah,
but like maybe that is the Hungry One still, but at least in the bishop's mind, I don't think he's made that connection.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, just so, I don't know. His character is so interesting, and I just watching his face during all of that was so crazy, because he was like legitimately like
Yeah.
freaking
And
freaking
I'm
out.
like, here I am being like, what is it? Because there was a lot of moments like that, not just in that moment, but like throughout the episode that, I was kind of relying on Brennan's facial expressions to realize like, oh, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
So
So again, citing back to our earlier conversation, just so cool to be able to have, as the creator of this world, to be able to have that type of like what
right.
moment
Yeah.
is so fun. But yeah, so I mean, we know that, just to speak on it, what he's, I don't know, his character's so interesting because he's this old man that has his own machinations, and I guess it's not fair to say he was evil or anything, but he was definitely underhanded and manipulative, which seems to think like, okay, well, what is he doing all of this for? But if he's upset that the war has popped off, and not to jump ahead here, but the comment he makes at the end, talking to the fungus of like, can it find me here, makes it seem like he kind of wants to get away from this, like,
Mm.
so he's not just evil. So and he doesn't know where these gifts came from, and he never cared. He just wanted to use them for what he could. Like, I'm not saying he's honorable or like a paragon of justice or anything, but it really made me wonder, like, what were his ultimate goals? Like, at least in his own mind, did he think everything he was doing like was for this greater good? Citing back also to the "I don't want to be remembered" comment. Like, if it's not about his own glory and climbing the ladder of power, like, what makes this guy tick? I'm so curious.
Yeah, maybe it's like related to I don't think we can like trust on face value that his like supposed genuineness to Go and like sort of like encouraging her to marry Tomate. I guess in some ways it sort of like solidifies the Bulbian church with Go, like him being like such a close shoulder partner to Go. I guess in a way it kind of solidifies it does solidify the Bulbian church between those kingdoms. So I don't know if that was part of it. And now it's like now he's like, I don't see any pathway now. Like it's not as simple as the Fruitarian and Vegetarian countries like resolving their differences. Now it's so much bigger than that. So that might be part of it, but it does also feel like there was some other plan unrelated to that is now like ruined in some way.
Yeah, because it also, I don't remember the exact comments, but it also seems like things he were doing, like, it didn't seem like he was necessarily tying his ship to Go.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It feels like he had other plans, because I don't remember the exact thing, but like I think it was episode 2, he like was spreading some rumors about how like, oh, look what you've done. You've pushed the queen right to Tomate's hand, which is going to like legitimize his stake to the crown, which in that way was kind of helping her. But like that, he like made some comment about like that wasn't his intention, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to make of the bishop, which is just fascinating. And it's even more fascinating on a meta level because it's Brennan that's playing him.
Yeah.
Just because he knows everything in a way, and yet he was still like so caught off guard by this. So
Yeah.
I'm just curious what machinations he would have made in a character like that, or what aspirations he would have made in a character like that. All right. Sorry, scrolling through my notes real quick. I did think that for the last thing on the battle, actually no, never mind. Let's save that for later. Okay, so anything else on the battle?
No.
All right. So this fungus.
Yeah. Poor fungus guy.
I mean, it's pretty much laid out flat, but like these are fruits, vegetables that have rotted to an extent that they have this fungus developed, or maybe there is a fungus that takes, like, not Last of Us takes over, but like it seems like at least the one character we saw that they killed. So not speaking of like the mushroom that they like touched at the end, but that thing was at one point a fruit or a vegetable that
You saying it was or it wasn't?
was. Is that the
Oh,
implication
okay.
that you got?
I took it as just like this yet undiscovered like seventh kingdom, which
Well,
was
yeah.
like, but I didn't take it to be like they used to be, fruit or vegetable. It could be. I don't have an issue if it is with that theory. I saw it more as like kind of like a seedy isn't the right word, but just like a more, it's like when you go like you see the footage of like deep in like the Marianas Trench, and you're like, that's down there, like this very much smaller kingdom that is kind of interdispersed and hidden away, and apparently seems to be a source of the survival of the world in some way with that comment and like this is the heart of the world or something. So
Yeah.
I don't know which one it is.
Well, I think it's both. Just to be clear, I think there is like this mycological. That's right for fungus and mushrooms.
You're so smart.
Last of Us. I think there is like this fungus colony and just pure fungus beings, if you will. But I think there
Yeah.
is also like fruits and vegetables and other members of the kingdom that like have gotten so destitute and like starved and like then they start like just like if you leave a potato out too long it starts growing those things or
Mhm.
like fruit rots and will develop fungus. I think that's happening as well and I think that's
Yeah.
what happened to that creature that we saw that it, at one point was a strawberry and just but it has fundamentally changed in that process because that they didn't speak the same language anymore. um
Mhm.
Maybe those spores that like exhaled at the end had something to do with its shift. I think this is in a way a metaphor, not a metaphor, but like a I don't know the word I'm looking for, but to the White Walkers, like this is the zombies in a way of the Game of Thrones Candia world. um
Yeah, I can see that.
but what's interesting, like you pointed out, is that like the like the hive mind that they connected to was like welcoming and like
Mhm.
feels good, man.
It was with Delhi, but was oddly uh, not as warm. I feel like with Rafanuel.
I thought it was. Why didn't you think it was? Or
I
what
don't know.
gave you that?
I guess Matt's tone to me felt more, and I said it in the recap, maybe incorrectly, but the tone that Matt took with Rafanuel to me felt more cautious.
Mm.
Um, Not necessarily suspicious, but it did feel more feels good, man. Glad you're here with Delisandro and Rafanuel. It just, like I said, it felt more cautious. It felt more like, hmm. So I didn't know if that was like a reflection of Rafanuel's character or just the fact that he was deep diving with Detect Thoughts, that it was like, good vibes, man. And then like, oh, wait, you weren't supposed to see this room though.
Hmm.
So I'm not sure.
I might need to go back and watch it, but because there definitely was the aspect of like you have to go, don't tell anyone.
Right.
Um, so there was that aspect with Rafanuel, but I feel like he also said like you feel connected and welcome.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
maybe I'm just getting my wires crossed with what happened with
I think
Delhi.
he still said that with
Okay.
Rafanuel too. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Because okay, so again haven't seen Crown of Candy, but I don't think this fungus was in it. Crown of Candy, maybe. Let me know in the comments if it was, um, or at least on screen, as it were. So I don't know that there's too much known about this. Um, but so I don't know. This just the way this all ties into like the greater lore of the world is so cool. Because like yeah, there's with the hungry one, like how do you ultimately beat him? Well, you got to be unappetizing, So like
Mm.
rot and fungus. Like I just like how it like all just makes so much sense.
It
Um,
does seem like it's getting positioned. This entity or whatever we're talking about here is getting positioned by Matt to be in a direct contradiction to their intentions around the hungry one, or like I don't. The implication I got from like one of the final scenes wasn't like they're going to team up now and like we found an answer, but like there's going to be some kind of friction or I just think about even the imagery of cliche, carrying the creature over his shoulder, like you've killed like a rabbit or some kind, like your hunting trophy, and then sort of like the leaning in of like, hey, we found something you want to see. Like that to me just implies there's something about this, like you mentioned, that is either in opposition with their plan or rubs in some way with what they've been doing with the Hungry One.
The FDA.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Yeah, not the party. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Which I didn't know if I was fair to make that assumption or not, but I'm glad
I think you're right.
I'm glad you
Yeah.
phrased it this way because I wanted to talk about this because
I think you're right about what I just said.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say that it seems like Matt I think mentioned that like this fungus was like worth its weight in gold, and like it was studied and stuff, but it did seem like at least generally like the average person doesn't know about this
Right.
fungal
Yeah.
kingdom, if you will. So does the FDA know? Maybe because they're in the know, but even if they do, for my money, it doesn't seem like, even though they want rot and murder, that they're not referring to like the fungus people. It seems like that's a separate thing. Like,
Yes, I felt the same way. I feel like their description of wanting rot and chaos, whatever, was like general mayhem, unaware of this other kingdom or just not intending to reference them.
right. Okay. So yeah, we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
But what's really interesting is like this kingdom could be the answer to everything, right?
Yes.
So like, maybe we don't have to all kill each other. If we're all just rotted fungus, the hungry one isn't going to want to eat us either. So like, so I'm curious what the positioning of that is going to be. Like, yeah, I don't know. Because in the same way, not that this like, I haven't read the Game of Thrones books. So I don't know if this was ever like positioned. But in the same way of like in the world of Game of Thrones, there's death and all this stuff, and you can actually, in a way, conquer death if you become a White Walker. So like in a way, you can conquer the hungering one if you just become a fungus guy,
Right.
because he won't want to eat you.
Right.
So I mean, this is a prequel, and so like I guess we at least know that in 15, 20 years for A Crown of Candy, the whole world's not fungus people. So I and again, I don't think they're even in A Crown of Candy, at least not on screens. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just curious how this all shakes out. Are they gonna? I don't know. I know I'm just rambling, but like,
I think we're heading to another awesome moment like we saw in Calamity, of the party realizing that this beating heart, so to speak, is key to the survival of their world. And I'm not unlike the Tree of Names, and that we might see some interesting inter-party tension there, knowing that Thane Delisandro loves the idea, like you mentioned, that these people are kingmakers. If he caught the smell of his aunt, which was implied, we talked about maybe he would be mad that he was played, or maybe he would realize like, oh, I can really trust these people.
yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting to see where this could go, but it does feel like we're heading to some kind of battle around this, not physically around, maybe physically around it, but and I think I said in episode 1, it'd be interesting that potentially the FDA might be the big bad of this. We're probably gonna fight an elderly woman, but
Yeah, at least, yeah, I know. Yeah, that they might, be at ends with them or odds with them ultimately. But yeah, I'm just so curious about this hive mind, which I think that's basically what it was, because there are those
Yeah.
like big mushroom like I think they're like the biggest thing on the planet, right? Like the biggest living organism are these like mushroom colonies.
Yeah. I think it's a fair way to describe it.
So I think they were just interacting with that hive mind in that moment, and the fact that it was like so welcoming, I'm wondering if that was almost like a, not necessarily like evil, but if it's like it wants it wants to control everything in the world. Like maybe it's not just like, the nice neighbor that's like, yeah, come on in, but it's like, no, we want you too, but yeah, I wonder if it's going to be positioned at all as like, I mean, I guess the bulb and the hungry one are kind of the two sides of the same coin, but like the fungus could be kind of like the real. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, and this is probably where we're gonna like really antagonize you guys who are deep lore junkies for A Crown of Candy, because I was going to say it seems like the Sanctus Putris is this other Bulbian sect that sort of understands like the ends justify the means. They mentioned the Fester Tome, which I think in the first episode when they meet the FDA, or maybe it was the second one, I think it was the first one, there is the conversation around texts that people don't want to accept as truth. So I'm assuming that is what's being referenced here.
Yeah, because we know that there's pages from the Book of Leaves that have been omitted or ripped out. So I wondered do you think the Festered Tome is just the original Book of Leaves, or do you think it's like with everything still included, or do you think it's a completely separate book?
It could be like, and someone said this in the comments, that Brennan absolutely modeled the Bulbian Church around the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has I think it's called the Catechism, which are those books that are considered part of the Bible, but sorry for butchering this, non-Catholic Christians don't. So like maybe like it's something like that a little bit, where it's just like these separate pages that comprise, whatever. My issue is I couldn't Google and like read more about this because as I started reading into it, I was like, spoilers. Yeah, because the Sanctus Putris is in A Crown of Candy, and I know that because as I was on the wiki page, after like 8 seconds, I was like, abort. So it feels like we're on the start of a conversation, but I can't like get into the conversation because I'm trying to protect myself from being spoiled, I guess.
Yeah, I kind of had a similar moment, which I don't remember what spurred it, but there was also mention of the Prophetian Theosity or Theocracy or something.
Yes.
Which I know what that is, but I don't. It's not like a big spoiler or anything. But if you don't want me to say what it is, I won't. It's just like a subsect of their beliefs.
You just do it anyway.
Yeah, I'm not. You want me to say?
No. Don't
okay, no. I won't. But essentially, so without saying it, I believe the Sanctus Putris believes in the Prophetius, the whatever it is, which I think is all considered heresy, which makes sense because the pages have been ripped out, and the FDA even says as much. Like they can't see beyond the veil, like they claim it's heresy or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know, because we already kind of had this conversation, but again, I wonder, like, even if the FDA doesn't position this fungus as their answer, I wonder if like the original intention of those passages was referring to it. And maybe they've just misinterpreted it to mean like there must be war and bloodshed, when actuality it was like, no, like it's this. But yeah, I guess, pun not intended, I guess this conversation wouldn't be fruitful since we don't really know what we're talking about. Okay.
Sorry, random question.
Yeah.
When people die in this world, are they buried? What happens to people when they die?
That's a good question. No idea.
I only ask because, like, would this fungus be seen as like in contradiction to the natural order of things? Because I was thinking, like, well, how does it satiate the hungry one? Like, I know like bodies aren't literally like picked up and thrown in like to like a whirlpool or something, But I was trying to see like if fungus brings life from things that have died or what have you, like I wonder if the FDA would see it in that way as like, no, you're preventing the hungry one from being satiated by kind of because like as we know from fungus, it breaks down dead things back into its essential nutrients that go back into the soil and grow new things.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, maybe it'd be interesting if the FDA saw this seventh kingdom as being, like I said, interrupting what should be happening for the process of satisfying the hungry one.
I definitely, I mean, not, I don't know if we're going to get more Calorum lore and story after this, but I could definitely see that being like a major friction point, if not for the FDA, for some major parts of the world. Like, I don't think everyone's just going to be like, new kingdom, welcome. You know, I think it's going to be like a major problem.
Yeah.
But if that's directly opposed to the FDA or not, I can't say. But yeah, I definitely feel like people are going to have a big issue with this because it's like, especially if what I was saying earlier about how like fruits and vegetables can kind of like become this, like similar to zombification, like it's going to be looked at as like, you know,
Yeah.
like,
Hmm.
I don't know, not good.
I keep trying to like Google different things, and then like pretty much every article I go to, I'm like, I can't read that one.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
So yeah, yeah.
Um, okay. Anything else on this specific fungus?
Negative.
Okay. So a couple, like just a couple things I wanted to touch on. I'm just looking through my notes really quick. One, this is just kind of random, but last episode we were talking about Lady Amango being level 4 and everyone else is level 5, and maybe like, is there something going on there? One thing I noticed in this episode is that she's listed as a level 4 rogue, but she cast Expeditious Retreat, which
Yeah.
lets you bonus action dash, which one isn't a rogue spell, but more importantly than that, rogues can already bonus action dash. So there would be no need for her to have that spell. So either she's not a
Sorcerer,
rogue at
warlock,
all.
wizard.
What?
Okay. Sorcerer, warlock, wizard. Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, rogues get cunning action, which allows
Yeah.
them to do that
Right.
anyway. So,
Right.
you know, possible just a mess up in character creation, or like didn't realize that rogues had that. But to me, I feel like that is a next little confirmation that maybe something's going on with her that we're not fully privy to yet.
Yeah. 5th level in something.
Yeah. Or she's just not a rogue at all.
Ah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
It would be interesting though, her being like the ultimately naive, like queen who trusts everybody, if she herself was actually, the big brain playing everyone else.
I think there's definitely some of that. Like, she couldn't have made it. She's the queen, you know? Like, not saying she's like the Cersei Lannister equivalent, but like, you
Mm.
know, she didn't get to where she was and survive in this world being, you know,
Yeah.
little Miss Naivete. Um okay, I may remember other things I wanted to talk about, but just skimming through my notes, the last thing I definitely wanted to mention was this time jump and kind of like the implications of what happens from here. And to lead off with Lady Amango is almost very interesting because now this child, if it survives, is going to be 5 to 7 ish, and so like, what does that look like? It and like, I don't know. So I'm really curious to see what she does in this time. We know she wants to go link up with Tomate. Presumably that might happen.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see where she ends up. The one I'm next most curious about is the bishop. Where
Mm.
does he go from here? Because in the after show, when Matt kind of told them about the time jump again, and be thinking about what you're going to be doing, Brennan was like, yeah, like I cannot improv what he would do now. Like, I need to go home and like think about this, because, and he was like, is anything on the table? Like, can I just go become a monk? Because like, and just figure out like go live on a mountain somewhere. So I thought that was really interesting that like that moment of realization and
Yeah.
his plans kind of dissolving away, like that really was like everything to him. So like
Yeah.
he's like lost now. So,
Yeah.
and he asks, the fungus, can the blades find me here? So like, I'm just really curious to see, like, maybe he goes to live with the fungus people, or like, I'm just so curious to see what he does next. Also, in 4 or 5 years, maybe
I
that's enough
think
time to get new plans up and like, a new manipulative. scheme
I
going.
wonder. I wonder. This might be a total stretch, but I wonder. Um, there's a lot in for our listeners. I don't mean this in a negative way. Being a Christian myself, there's a lot of shame and guilt in just in religion in general, but just in my background. Um, I wonder if he's playing a character who, like, thinking about the Blades, maybe the Blades isn't a patron. Maybe the Blades is sort of like this self shaming guilt of like, this is where I'm due. Like, I deserve to go to hell kind of phrasing. And in like the comfort of
Hmm.
like this welcoming space, it's like, am I safe here? Like, am I, and maybe, we've kind of always seen him as like kind of like this more shady, like what is he planning? Maybe legitimately it is this, I don't want to be remembered not because of anything bad, but just because I want to ultimately do the right thing because I deserve obliteration or whatever. Like it's kind of I don't know if I'm describing it well, but like people who want to do good deeds because they ultimately feel like they deserve the worst. And so
Yeah.
maybe that phrasing is around like this deep, now sort of like well-seated guilt of, it's not just like imposter syndrome. It's like, no, I brought in a sixth kingdom that
Yeah.
now so many people are going to die. Presumably, I don't know what happens in a crown of candy, but just judging by the name, I'm assuming there's some kind of like infighting around the crown that I would guess started because of this death so many years earlier from Queen Pamela Rocks. So, coming to terms with it's not just this war, but also even more bloodshed. I wonder if that's an angle that he's taking there, which I don't know. Like I said, it could be a stretch. That's just kind of where my mind was going just now.
Yeah. No, like, yeah, I'm fascinated to know more behind the curtain because yeah, it feels like we don't really know what motivates him or what he's.
I feel like, and Brennan also having a philosophy background, like I feel like this is the kind of like meaty existential concept he'd want to explore. Um,
Yeah, for sure. I could. I could totally see that.
hmm.
So yeah, yeah. I
Anyway,
mean, yeah, I don't know. I hope we. I mean, I'm sure we will. I mean, not that we'll get like every answer to these things that we're wondering about, but hopefully we do get some clarity to like what is
it
motivating
would
all of these people.
it would be nice to get an end of series like longer than 15 minutes, like breakdown of kind of like what we got with Calamity. Like we really got to kind of get in the thought process, and even like some more context around. I think if Aabria and Lou's character was really great, getting
Yeah.
insight about their characters. But it'd be great to get something like that at the end of this series.
I mean, I guess at the very least we will get an adventuring party. I believe that's what that series is called after the final episode, but I don't know. Maybe you guys that are more familiar with D20 could tell us if that final episode is ever like longer and they go more in depth or if it's still just like a 15-minute thing. But yeah, I would love that too, like a little campaign
Mhm.
wrap up type of situation.
Hmm.
That would be good. Um so the other time jumpers, we have Delhi, which I am just interested to see where he's at. Like, is he going to be the ruler of the like, or not the ruler, but like the head honcho of the Meatlands by now? Especially if he's positioned with his his aunt
Yes,
Ariana kind
yeah.
of helping him pull the strings. If she especially feels like she has her thumb or him wrapped around her finger, like maybe the FDA does try to get him in charge over there. Um, but I'm curious about how this relationship with Colin and him is going to develop because, like you said, Colin
Seems
amongst,
hesitant.
yeah, everyone kind of seemed the most kind of like take it like uncomfortable with like what they were doing. Um,
He definitely seems the most morally pure. Him and maybe
yeah,
Amando. Morally pure is maybe not the right word, but like uncomfortable with blurring the lines, I
yeah,
guess. Like that gray area for sure.
yeah. So, and they've had this bromance. So, like, is it
Yeah.
possible that could they not be together anymore at the end of this
Yeah.
time jump? I don't know. I'm interested to see how that relationship develops because, like you just said, Colin seems positioned that way, and we know Deli is just like all for
Mhm.
the glory. So I feel like that is going to come to a head at some point.
Yeah.
And then who have Karna. Oh yeah, one thing with Karna that I don't think I mentioned or talked about is that it wasn't this adventuring party, but for the last episode, she made some comment, which I guess it was kind of obvious, but hearing her actually spill it out like clicked for me. Her whole hungering one relationship and stuff with like, and her flesh was rotting and she cut it off and like sacrificed it. She made it seem like she's like on a death sentence, like she's dying. And so
Mm.
like to me, and again, I don't know if I'm filling in the blanks here or if she like said this, but to me the implication was that like her ambition and her everything is motivated by the fact that she is not going to be here long. Like so she's trying to like I don't know, make something of herself or like do something, I don't know. But I thought that was interesting that like this hungering one is like a death sentence type of thing. Oh, and this, okay, I'm glad I said this because now this reminds me that seems directly opposed to what the FDA wants because everything they're doing is to like keep the hungering one at bay,
Stave
but
off.
like she
Yeah.
is a servant of him essentially. So
Right.
like, is that how's that going to play out with the inter-party dynamic? Like, is there going to be some like is she going to sabotage at the final moment if there is some grand FDA plan that they're all sent on? Is she gonna like try to mess that
Mm.
up?
I could see that. Like I said, I feel like we're heading to some kind of inter-party tension lightly, but maybe all-out conflict in some way.
I feel like we have to
could
be.
I could see Colin D'Alessandro, like,
Yeah.
with like an epic final moment of Colin delivering the final blow and Thane being like, Scald. And he's like, yeah. Because I can't think of a cool thing to say back. But anyway. So yeah, I could see that for sure.
I think we're definitely gonna have some party combat.
Yeah.
Some PvP.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it breaks out.
Mm. Yeah. Well, anything else from this episode you want to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we got it.
Yeah. Let us know what you guys thought. There's some really cool, meaty stuff here. And again, thanks for being so gracious about us being not in the know on A Crown of Candy. But yeah, we have a new episode tonight. I don't know if we mentioned this in the intro. We do have a Discord where we discuss episodes and chat about it. So you're welcome to join that and just jump into the conversation. Super friendly community. So definitely, if you're new, you can just jump right on in and not worry about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an option too. And then Critical Role is back tomorrow night. So
Yeah. Yep. And
right?
they had I didn't watch it, but they had their Zelda one shot last night.
Oh,
Which I know
wow.
some peeps in the Discord were watching. So I
Yeah,
wasn't
okay.
watching, so I didn't participate, but I think they were having a good time in there. So
Yeah,
I
okay.
have to check that out.
Yeah, I want to
Apparently,
see
like
more Emily Axford, by the way.
yeah,
I
me
know she's
too.
in it.
Yeah, apparently
So.
it's 5 hours long, which is pretty long for a one shot.
Yeah.
So we'll have to check that out at some point.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, thumbnail. I was thinking maybe I'm gonna like maybe like the kind of like what type of face.
Mhm.
'Cause I'll probably like
Yeah.
cut out them doing that too or something.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Alrighty, y'all.
All right.
Well, have a good one.
Yeah, much love.